After nearly 2 months of the offseason, the Rangers have an official diagnosis. Their offense was anemic, which begs the question, is there a doctor in the house? Good news.
Ooh.
Good news. We got one. We got a doctor. Yeah, he's a doctor of defense, but he can break down offense too, and we're going to do that. We've got so much more to talk about as the hot stove heats up. It's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Yeah, we'll talk about a cure for the offense, for what ailed the Rangers for most of this season. There's a lot of other work to be done during this offseason, though, and some of that is coming into focus. So we've got all that to talk about. But our first order of the day is to welcome our guest, Mark McLemore, the doctor of defense, my partner for, what did we say, 18 years?
18 years.
18 years on Rangers Live, and just a
lot.
Yeah,
It's a full-grown child.
Baseball
Yes.
encyclopedia, and yeah, he's way younger than he looks, right? No, 18 years, and Mac, it's great to have you. We appreciate you coming by.
Man, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I get to ride your coattails once again,
Oh,
like I did
please.
all those years before. So I love it. Love every minute of it.
Mark McLemore with J-Dub down there. That's Jeff Wilson, Abby Jones, Brad's me. That's John Radigan. And there's the prophet over there, Elijah, who is helping us get all of this put together. Had to add the extra chair today. Busy day for the prophet. It's a holiday week, and it is that time of year, Jeff, where things are heating up hot stove-wise.
Yeah, the Angels signed Kikuchi this morning, or at least it was announced this morning. You're starting to see the non-tender deadlines are going to create some interest. So, winter meetings are only 2 weeks away. So,
Yeah.
So maybe not this week, but next week leading into the winter meetings will be busy. The Juan Soto stuff's supposed to, we'll get to that a little later, I guess. That's heating up. So
My Soto saga continues.
there's going to be a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get to that Soto saga a little bit when we back clean up, and it's gonna be later in the show when we ask the doctor to pull out his stethoscope and solve the problems of this Rangers offense. Feel free to fire questions for our guest Mark McLemore today. And Mac, I wondered about that when I was looking at all the, non-tender and tender and signings and stuff. How close attention did you pay to that, and or was that all your agent, or how did that work in your career?
No, for me, I always paid attention to it. I got non-tendered a couple of times. So it's always important. There are guys that, that will get non-tendered, and you're thinking, well, why did that guy get non-tendered? And sometimes there might be an agreement with that club. They may not be able to, may not want to pay that guy what he's actually worth. And they'll say, hey, we're going to non-tender you. If you don't have a better offer, we want you back. Mm-hmm. But for me, I always paid attention to it. I wasn't that guy that was, getting the 3 and the 5 and the 8-year deals. So it was always an important time of the year for me.
Yeah.
Do you take it personal if that option doesn't work out and you're kind of back to where you were?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all personal. When people say, hey, don't take it personally. Well, yeah, when you're out there and that's your livelihood and you put that work in each and every day to try and fulfill that dream, and it doesn't work out, who wouldn't
feel
take
some
it
type of
personally?
way.
You have to. And
Yeah.
for me, let's say I felt that type of way a lot. and it was fuel for me, though.
I was
It
going to say,
oh,
it has to light a fire within you.
It does. It can put a big chip on your shoulder, all kinds of things. But it definitely worked that way for me, especially the first 10 years of my career.
I want to send a strongly worded email to the teams that didn't tender you. So who were they?
Let's see. The Orioles non-tendered me. The Angels, the Angels traded me. Cleveland, Houston.
The
Yes.
Orioles non-tendered you when you came to Texas?
No, they non-tendered me my first year, after my first year in Baltimore in '92.
Oh.
I had a really good year.
Yeah.
They weren't expecting me to play as much as I did, but I did. and they non-tendered me. And that was a shock. And that was really the first time I was really, really upset.
Yeah.
But I had an agent. I had just gotten a new agent, Tony Atanasio out of San Diego. And that guy, I'll tell you what, all 5'1" of him, he was like a lion. He got on every radio show, every TV show in Baltimore, and just absolutely lit him up. Just lit him up. So I actually got what I should have gotten without the non-tender, and things just kind of took off from there once again. So that was good for me.
Yeah.
I remember one time my dad got traded, and it just didn't really go about it the right way. And as a family, we collectively opened our closets. I'm getting rid of this and this. We were just having a party, throwing all the stuff. And I saw on Twitter, too, I don't remember the player off the top of my head, but it was a Royals guy. And somebody was like, well, he's either getting traded or he's grown some way, because he donated all of his Royals gear, with his number and everything, to the local Goodwill or whatever. So somebody's really pulling up to the next Royals game with some pretty authentic gear.
I always kept mine. I played for 7 teams, but for me it was, a little bit different, even though there were some that I left and, didn't care for them. And I made it a point when I played them again to let them know you made a mistake.
Yeah.
But I pretty much kept all of my gear from every team, because I knew at some point I was going to be.
Look back with fondness.
Well, no, not really. No, there's some of them, a couple of them still. No, I still have it for them.
That's
but no,
hilarious.
it was going to be history. At some point, I was going to be finished playing, and something to pass along to my kids. And I mean, I never wear it. I still don't. I never have. But I have family members, friends. They like to wear that stuff, but me, never.
Do you wear Ranger gear even?
Never.
Other than if they had us wear it on the show every
That
once
was
in
it.
a
If
while.
I was on the show, yes, I wouldn't wear it even when I used to work out. I don't really work out a whole lot anymore, but even working out, I just didn't. I didn't wear any team that I was affiliated with, because initially, when I first started playing way back in the minor leagues, you'd get fined for it.
Really?
If you're wearing something and you're away from the field, they call it, false advertising. Why are you advertising and you're away from the field? You make enough money, even though we didn't make anything in the minor leagues at the time,
Right.
to get something that didn't have your name on it, or a team,
Yeah,
the team that you're affiliated with, that name on it. So that's just always stuck with me. I don't really like wearing anything or any emblems of anything, anybody. I usually don't wear anything, maybe something on my sleeve if I really like the shirt. But other than that, just clear.
Yeah.
After the
Stealth.
Rangers got Mike Napoli in that trade, he got traded to Toronto, I think,
Yeah.
and then the Rangers traded for him. That spring, they were getting ready to play the Angels, the last team he'd played for. And he was like, I get fired up. It's sports hate. He called it sports hate. He said he loves a lot of the guys, but he wanted to go out and kill them. And that year, he destroyed the Angels, including the last game of the season. He hit 2 home runs and a 2-1 victory that gave the Rangers, I don't know if it was the best record in the league, but they didn't have to go on the road to open the playoffs.
Wow. Yeah.
And so that's the only time I've ever cheered in a press box, was when he hit that second home run off of Jared Weaver. Because otherwise, we would have had to fly overnight to New York.
Wow.
From LA to New York on the red eye.
Yeah, and for me, I don't think it really matters if you leave a team on good terms or not. When you're gone, if you're a free agent and you choose to go somewhere else, you still want to hurt that team.
Yeah.
I think it's just that competitive fire that players have.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how you leave. Now, obviously, if you leave under bad terms, you didn't want to leave and they let you go or traded you or whatever, I think that fires you up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I still think even if you chose to leave, you want to hurt that team.
Yes, so there were 2 players, when the non-tender deadline hit on Friday night that were, more than this, but 2 that specifically would be of interest to the Rangers, who were unceremoniously dumped. One was Jordan Romano, longtime closer and great one for the Toronto Blue Jays, although he's been hurt and there's still questions about his wonky elbow. And then the other one is Kyle Finnegan of the Nationals, who was an all-star just last year. And Mac, it seems like, again, I think we'd all love to see Kirby Yates come back if that's possible. But either one of those 2 guys would be pretty good alternative if you can't get Kirby Yates as the closer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think it might be a little tough to get Kirby back. I think he wants to be here and wants to stay here. Obviously, it's just going to depend on what the Rangers want to do. But Kirby Yates had a great year, a fantastic year. But as a general manager, you're always looking to make your team better. How can I make them better? And you always have to have plan A, B, C, D, and whatever else you need for whatever position. You want to have multiple choices because you never know what other teams are going to do. You may have an idea. A lot of things come into play, especially when guys are free agents. Is it the money? Is it the years? Is it the city? Is it the weather? Is it whatever? It can be a multitude of things. So, Romano, obviously, a really good closer for Toronto for a long time. Finnegan, he was an all-star just this year.
Yeah.
That's not
He
too
had a
long
great
ago.
season.
38 saves, 5 blown saves, but 38 saves on a team that could have won a lot more games.
Yeah, it didn't win a lot.
It didn't win a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So, there's some good options out there. And you never know what the reason for it is. I'm sure the Nationals, Mike Rizzo, the president there, he's got his reasons. And he was a former teammate of mine in the minor leagues. So I know he has his reasons. He's a real baseball guy. So if he's letting somebody go like that, there's something behind it. I'm not saying anything personal or anything like that, but there's something behind it, whether it's an injury or he just doesn't see that, hey, this guy can bounce back.
Well, that's with Romano. The Blue Jays have the medical records. They saw what he went through this year with the elbow. Do they think he would be able to post and play a full season for whatever they were going to pay him? And I think the answer to that is no. But Romano, the Rangers selected him in the 2018 Rule 5 draft. So he was in spring training in the 2017 Rule 5 draft. But in spring training, he was in spring training in 18 with the Rangers and didn't make the club. And, the Rule 5 thing, you got to offer him back if he clears the waivers. And he did. He hadn't pitched above Double-A. And he was a starter at the time, I think, and they were like, this might look good as a relief arm. So there's some history there. It's kind of a long time, and it wasn't very long, but a lot of the same scouts are around, and so there might be some interest, and who knows. But there are 2 more names in case Kirby Yates goes elsewhere.
Yeah. I'm interested though because Kyle Finnegan, he's not Kirby Yates obviously, but gives the similar look of 3 pitches, and Romano is a 2-pitch kind of guy. So are you wanting a change up there, or are you interested in the formula that you've seen previously?
I think whatever works for a guy, if he's effective with just 2 pitches and that's all it takes, that's all it takes. If you don't need 4, 5, 6 different pitches to be effective, and especially in the closer role. You don't want to have, in my opinion, you don't want to have 3 or 4 different pitches because if they're not working, you're supposed to come in and throw strikes and get outs.
Yeah.
You're the closer, come in and shut the door, you're throwing fastball and then an off-speed pitch. That's it. If you've got 2, great. And if you look at it, that's what most of the great closers have, 2 pitches, not 3, 4, and 5. They've got 2. One is usually a blazing fastball that they can spot and control, and then the other one is an off-speed pitch that they can spot as well.
Mariano Rivera had 1.
Yeah.
Really.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was absolutely ridiculous because you knew what was coming. And his first 10 years or so, he was throwing that cutter to lefties on the inside part of the plate and, making firewood. He could have opened a lumber company if he wanted to. But then all of a sudden he just switched up and started using that cutter away to left-handers on the outside part of the plate. It's like, dude, you were already unhittable. Why are you going to do that? So he was, definitely one of the best. He knew. He could tell you what was coming. He didn't have to tell you. You knew. Here, there it is.
Which makes it even more impressive.
No, it doesn't. It made for long nights, long frustrating nights.
Makes it even more frustrating.
That's not good. No, good for him, of course, but no, not us.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Mark McLemore is with us as we talk Rangers and all things baseball during this offseason. A holiday week, we are celebrating with a very special guest today, and he's going to break down, the doctor of defense is going to break down the Rangers offense coming up a little later. Next up, we shuffle the batting order, though. We're batting cleanup next as we've got some things to take care of with regard to what's happening around the major leagues today in the off season. That's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. First, though, you've missed your chance. You will not get your floors in time for Thanksgiving. And that's okay. Because you know what? Thanksgiving's going to be more of a mess anyway. You got the turkey and the stuffing and the gravy flying. get to Empire today and get those new floors. You still get them for Christmas. And that's really more important anyway. You want to get that for all the family to come in, have that place looking ship-shape for all the family that's going to come visit at the holiday season. Empire today is the original. They're the best. They're the original, so that means everybody else who's out there is basically trying to copy them. Most of those people don't have the technology that they do at Empire today, which is the, grab your phone, take a picture of the floor, and then take it to Empire today, and they'll show you what various options would look like on that exact floor. So pretty cool technology. They did our floor right here that we're sitting on. We love it. It has shown no wear. It's no worse for the wear, despite the abuse we have put it through with multiple shows every day. So Empire Today, $350 off your new floors, empiretoday.com/DLLS.
And we're going to save you some more money at the dinner table with HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients, seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep so you can skip the grocery store. And with the holidays upon us, if you're looking for something easy to do, you don't want to go to the grocery store during the holidays. This week, do not go to the grocery store unless it's an absolute emergency. HelloFresh is going to help you out. Comfort food, healthy food, whatever it is, you can get it from HelloFresh. I didn't bring my sweet little prop, but dang it, I'm just going to start carrying it with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/FreeRangers. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/FreeRangers.
Yeah, we got free bagels when we got our HelloFresh.
Yeah. They've got this this market store where you can go and add on stuff. So it's got you covered.
Beautiful. One thing we wanted to clean up from before the cleanup segment is the fact that the Angels, a division rival, have signed Kikuchi reportedly to a 3-year, $63 million contract. And Mac, I don't know about you, but when I see, and Jeff and Abs are the same way, when we see Wash get another bullet for the gun, we're happy. We don't want them to beat the Rangers, but we root for Wash. We love, except when they're playing the Rangers, we love Wash. So I see Kikuchi goes there, I'm like, good.
Yeah, you're right. And yes, you do want them to do well. You want Wash to do well. Wish him all the best, except when he plays the Rangers, obviously.
Yeah.
But
A few times a year.
yeah, that's it. just, 13 times?
Yeah.
Used to be
maybe
19,
12 or 1.
so yeah.
That was crazy. But this is much better. But yes, only when you're playing everybody else, especially anybody else that's in the AL West.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask about that because, in your career, your last few years, you went all over the AL West. So talk about that perspective as a player, the advantages that you have going to a team that has been in your division you've seen thousands of times.
It was an advantage, kind of an advantage, because when I played it, we weren't playing the same team or in the division 19 times. It was 13 or 14 somewhere, like it is now, but knowing those guys, and there were other guys that moved around. But typically you have teams that will pitch a guy a certain way, not necessarily pitchers doing something different. If they've come from another team, they pitch a guy this way. It's usually teams that have a philosophy on how to get a particular player out. So for me, knowing guys, that were coming in and playing against them a lot, they would move around too. So just knowing what that particular person did was great. The only thing that gave me the biggest advantage were the managers. If the managers were the same and they stayed the same for 4 or 5 years, 6, 7, or whatever, that would give me an advantage because I knew what they were, how they managed, what they were thinking, the type of personnel they had, because that's what they're going to go with. Whatever personnel they have, that's going to fit into that manager's personality. So that gave me more of an advantage, more so than players.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I think we're going to talk to him later because I've got a question for him about the 2001 Mariners. We'll get to in a little bit. But I'm saving it.
Yeah, good. We'll go down. We'll get to Mac's memories here a little bit later in the show too. One of the things, Mac lived in the area in the off season. It seems like more guys choose to do that now than did in your era. But because hardly anybody did back in those days. But this is one of the things that Mac would have done when he was here, not just because he lived here, but last weekend, I think it was on Friday, the Rangers invited the people who needed it most to the ballpark to get Thanksgiving meals. And it always just warms my heart to see the organization, but also the players themselves giving back. So we can take a look at some of the pictures of that happening. There's John Gray, Jonah Heim. Who is that?
Leote.
That's Leote.
Leote in the middle,
is local this
and
year.
they're all, they're just there passing out. There they are. Yeah, they're just passing out, turkeys and the whole fixings for a Thanksgiving meal to people who need it. Oh, there they are with the wives, their better halves. And again, this is something, Mac, I know you would have done. I'm sure I covered you doing things like that on more than one occasion. I'm sure it feels good to be able to do that.
It really does. And, it does a lot of things. Number one, obviously, it helps people that are in need, but it also gives fans an opportunity to meet players and really get to see their personality and who they are and realize that players are just like them. We just have a different job. We do the same things throughout the course of every day that most people do, except our day job or night job. But other than that, it just gives fans an opportunity to really see, what the life of a player is and who they really are. You get to have a conversation with them, maybe get to see a little bit of their personality. But the biggest thing, obviously, is the people that are in need. You've got players and organizations that are reaching out. So it's great. The Rangers are continuing to do what they've always done in the community, which is be there and support the community that really supports them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you, and this is a good thing about the way the Rangers Live set was set up out in left field of the ballpark. And really, it goes back to the other ballpark, too. We were there among the fans, and when the fans would come up, and they'd be just outside a stanchion that was there, but they'd call Mac, or any of us, but Mac, up off his chair, down the step, over there, big hug and a smile. And this is regular people. It's not like, Troy Aikman was walking up to say hi, although he might have. But, but the point is, they're regular fans, and you've gotten to know them over the years just from being there.
Yeah, for me, it's always been fun to interact with fans because, like I said, I like showing them, hey, we're just like you. Mm-hmm. We just have a different job. That's it. We're not, some, piece of figurine sitting up, behind something. I think a lot of people, and I learned this early in my career.
Dehumanize players.
A lot of people think that when they turn the TV off at night after a game and then turn it back on the next day, that's the only place we've been.
Yeah.
We've been right there waiting for them to turn the TV on, turn the game on, and watch us. No, we have lives. We do everyday things. So I like interacting with people and, just the shock that it gives most people when I come over or, any of us come over and speak to them. They're like, oh, you're coming to talk to us? I'm like, yes, you waved and you said hello. So yeah, that's what we do. So for me, it's always been fun to interact with the fans.
Well, that's one reason I don't like formulas like WAR. It's because WAR has players in a vacuum. It doesn't bring into doesn't account for anything else that might be going on. You have a kid at home who's sick and kept you up half the night, or your mom had hip surgery or something.
Anything.
It just doesn't account for any of that thing. Right.
Nobody's going to be 100% on every time they go out there. If they did, there'd be no games.
Yeah.
Right.
If you think about it, if a pitcher went out there and shut everybody down, it just can't happen. Because if a player does the same thing, that means he's getting hits. So the pitcher's not getting outs. So it's just not like that. There's so many things that come into play that some stats now don't really account for, and there's no way to do it other than you have to go out there and play. The guy's not going to have his best stuff. He's not going to have his best fastball. You're not going to have your best swing. You're not, for whatever reason. I couldn't sleep last night. Construction outside the hotel.
Sure.
There's so many things that factor into it. Family things that are going on. My kid is sick. My kid's in the hospital, or whatever it is. There's so many things that account for a player in every single sport going out there every day that you just can't account for.
Playing as long as you did, do you have any fan stories that stick out to you of, I remember this person, was a season ticket holder and always kind of sat around here, or maybe ritually, like you saw them at spring training and recreated a photo or something like that. Is there, one person in particular or story throughout your career?
It's hard to pick one. There have been so many throughout my career. I've had fans that were longtime season ticket holders for a lot of the clubs that I played for that would do special things for me. There was a lady in Baltimore.
I was going to say, what about the cake?
You better believe it.
You got a cake?
Yes. Every time we came in from the road, She was there for that first home game with a rum cake. I
Greatest fan.
Oh my God! Yes.
And then she'd send it. I've had it several times. I'm telling you, got the rum cake? Come on.
She's been out. She's been out to Texas a few times, and so everybody's got to taste her rum cake. That was one. Then I had a fan in California when I first came up to the big leagues. I have no idea how I became his fan, but he was a young kid. He was an artist, so he would draw different pictures of me on the field or just sitting in the dugout. So he would always have something fresh for me, pretty much every homestand.
Neat.
So
that's pretty cool.
And just playing so long. There's so many people in pretty much every city that have done something, whether they were season ticket holders or just a fan of mine or that particular team.
The cake lady, she needs to be on your Christmas card list.
Oh, she is.
Yeah,
We still talk now. You
that's
better believe
amazing.
it.
That's
You
amazing.
better believe it.
Absolutely, that's a great story. And I know, I get it. This is the pot calling the kettle black, but you guys can tell how old Mac is by the fact that when he said those people turn the TV off, he did this.
I was going to comment on that too.
All these kids are out there going,
That's what. Turn it off.
Well, turn it
No, I
off.
knew it.
It's even
Turn it off.
What does that do?
Exactly.
That's funny.
You got me.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah, that's how
That
old
was
he
He's
is.
walking up to the big box.
Yeah, turn it off. And then the little color, the Technicolor thing disappears in the screen.
Yeah, that one. Yes, yeah.
great.
Doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry about it. I'm coming up.
I love it. No, I love it. Let's see what else is in our cleanup segment. Oh, yeah. How about Robinson Chirinos? I love that. Robbie got a gig has he been with the Orioles for a while, Jeff?
Well, he played for him at the end of his career.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be the bench coach.
That's
in
awesome.
Baltimore.
That is awesome. One of the nicest guys I've ever met in this game. Always had a smile on his face. Always asked about your family, and I'm like, wait, man, I'm the veteran guy here. I'm the old dude.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to ask about how your family is.
Yeah.
Your young kids are
Young,
growing up.
yeah.
But just one of the nicest people I've ever been able to be around in this ball game. That's for sure.
I got to spend some time with him during the Beltray Hall of Fame weekend. He was one of the players that went up, and me and Colby Lewis and Raul the Cardenas, the massage therapist. We were kind of
/ translator.
We're kind of walking the streets of Cooperstown, but his son David, his oldest son, is actually in Venezuela right now because he's going to be eligible to sign as an international player in December. So he's been with Chirinos' family in Venezuela. But Robinson's like a man of God-fearing man, and just as kind can be. And, and you think about the managers he's played for in his career. He played for Joe Madden early on in Tampa when he had the concussions, then Wash, then AJ Hinch. So I mean, he's had some good guys to learn from. It'll be pretty. Some people think he's going to be a manager someday. Chirinos. So
I have all the confidence in the world that he could be a manager someday, and I think he's going to be on that track for sure.
That's the next job. I mean, bench coach, the next promotion's manager.
Right, that's the next spot.
And it's a good trajectory.
You saw Mac raise his hand on Joe Madden. I know he was your manager in the minors, right?
Rookie ball, my first year.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. So I had Joe for, I want to say, maybe 2 out of my 4 years in the minor leagues, but every year in instruction league, which is now fall ball.
Yeah.
We used to call it instruction league way back then. Joe Madden. So, he's one of my favorites. He did a lot for me in my career. I can't count the amount of ground balls and batting practice, extra ground balls, extra batting practice, and just the extra time that he took with me throughout my minor league career.
Yeah.
Just great. Just a great guy, all-around guy. Whenever I see him or hear his name, a smile comes to my face because he's just that good.
Yeah. Chris Woodward got a new gig, too. He's the first base coach of the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is not surprising, right, to have Woody land back with the Dodgers. And two things about that. One, I love to see a guy that we really like to get another opportunity. And two, I'd still like to see him get sort of a more fair opportunity to manage, because I feel like he had a lot of really good ideas. He was a pretty good combination, Mac, of that guy who is a baseball guy, played for 12 years, but who was also, he had become very familiar and spoke the language of the analytics very well.
Yeah, he was definitely able to blend those two components together. And yes, you're right, he didn't really get a fair shake. It's tough. It doesn't matter, who the manager is, when you don't have the talent, and this isn't a knock against any of those guys on the team.
No.
But when you don't have the talent to win, or you don't know how to win, and that's a huge piece. Knowing how to win, it makes it tough to manage. And who's going to get fired? It's going to be the manager. They're going to replace you at some point in time if there isn't the marked improvement that most organizations want to see, even though what he was handed wasn't really something that you could do a whole lot of work with. I'll just say that. So yes, it's great to see him get another opportunity back in the big leagues, first base coach. I think he will get another managing job at some point somewhere. He's just that good. It was just unfortunate that he was put into that situation. And typically that's what happens when you're a first-time manager anyway. You know, you look at Will Venable, he's going to the White Sox.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, so it's a tough situation to go into as a first-time manager.
At least the floor it can't get any lower for them.
Well, I don't know.
You hope
because
not.
I mean, you hope not.
Nobody thought they'd get there,
Right,
but they
right.
made it. So it's just a tough situation.
No, I've often I told him numerous occasions, I don't know if you're a good manager or not, because you've never had to be in a situation where you have to match wits with another manager, because you're either giving a guy a tryout or it's 9-0. And
Right.
you're just
Well, you know what? I think for me, the best way to judge a manager, if he's a good manager or not, talk to his players.
Yeah.
Because what a manager does is he manages his personnel. That's the number one thing. You have to be able to manage your own personnel, being able to put guys in positions to succeed. And if you can do that, they may not, but if you put them in those situations, that's all you can do as a manager. So once you know, if a guy is good or not, it's how he's done throughout the season, how he's been able to communicate with his personnel, the players, and his coaching staff. That's huge. So for me, that's that number one thing for a manager. Hey, what do the players think?
Yeah.
Even if they're young players and they haven't been in the big leagues long enough to have two managers, this is their first manager, they have a really good idea of how that manager did.
Hall of Fame manager Jim Leland would always say, I treat every player the same, but every player different.
Yeah, it's a
That's
great
exactly
way
it.
to say it. Yeah. Words of wisdom from Jim Leland and Mark McLemore. Lots more of those type words coming from Mac, as we also have to get to the Soto saga, because it has lit a fire under Abs. And so we're gonna see if we can help
wanna
with
hear
the
this.
fire. And
No, I want to hear your opinion.
yeah, second
actually.
point. She wants to hear Mac's opinion about this too. So anyway, that's coming up, and we'll continue to walk down memory lane. Let's also solve these offensive problems. We'll heal the Rangers with the doctor coming up next on the DLLS
doctor.
Rangers Podcast.
All right. Not the baseball season. However, basketball, hockey, football, so many things. Hey, even concerts and art gallery events, anything that you can think of. Game Time is going to be your one-stop shop to get the best price, the best option, because they're different than other platforms, resell tickets or anything like that. You get to see the seat that you're going to purchase before you buy it. So you can know if you're going to get a good seat, a good bang for your buck, if you will. So go to Game Time. I've used it plenty of times living downtown. Sometimes I want to go to a last-minute concert. Gotta wait till after the concert starts for the lowest price. That's just a freebie. You're welcome. But go to Game Time, and you can get, a concert or game ticket for like $50. I think the Cowboys might have some negotiations right now with their tickets as well. So if you have that tradition of going to the game on Thursday, go to Game Time. What time is it?
Game time.
Good time.
While Game Time makes things enjoyable for you, so does the Sleeper app. I love Sleeper. Everybody knows it's they're known for their fantasy stuff, but now they've gotten into the daily picks. And if you're looking for something to do on Thanksgiving Day, there's going to be 3 football games. Cowboys already up. Some of the picks from that game. One of them's on sale, meaning basically it's free money, because this one is,
like
will
that.
CD Lamb have more than half a receiving yard?
Oh my.
Yes.
So he's just got to catch a pass. That's
Yeah.
not for negative yards.
Yeah.
And you've got that one beat. So anyway, you take players, choose whether they'll have more or less than a certain stat, and it's fun. I finally got back into the win column last night with some NBA action. So anyway, go ahead, download the app if you think you have what it takes. Use the code DLLS Rangers for up to $100 on a first match deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms for use of details.
So the Soto saga continues, Mac. We've been updating
Daily
it every
basis.
day, and of course, people are very, very interested in this. And Abs has done a great job keeping up with this, in part now because it has transitioned officially to a social media watch, Abs.
Well, if I can do my best Jeff Kavanaugh rant impersonation and maybe get 500,000 views, I'm going to, because this sounds like the most toxic, crazy ex-girlfriend scenario
Ooh.
that was just not a thing back in the day. People are stalking Soto's Instagram to see who he follows and unfollows. So recently, he unfollowed Anthony Volpe,
Oh boy.
Aaron Judge's foundation, which, how do you
gosh.
unfollow your buddy's foundation? That one's a little harsh. Obviously unfollowed the Yankees. All right, all these things. Then he goes and he follows all of the Knicks guys. So he's following Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson,
basketball.
Cat.
All right. NBA.
So that's a very subtle Knicks, Mets. Just unfollowed the Mets. And I'm like, number one, people, get a life, okay? How do you keep checking a guy's social media following? But he did refollow the Yankees guys. So that's kind of a subtle way these days to, show people what you're thinking. But Mac, as a former player, this has got to be hilarious to you that people are looking at the social media thing and like running a million miles with it.
It's ridiculous. It really is. That's not gonna determine where he's gonna sign. It's not gonna be somebody that figures out, hey, he unfollowed these guys or that guy, so he's gonna sign over here. Not gonna happen. That's not what's gonna determine it. And like you said, yes, get a life. There has to be something better to do. Maybe watch paint dry. Maybe
Literally
it should
anything
be high on
else.
somebody's list. Yeah, it's crazy that people spend their time trying to figure out what any free agent is going to do by their social media account.
I believe he followed Leody Tavares, so that means the Rangers are in the
Oh, wow.
right?
Good.
Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely. They're
Nice.
going to do it.
Breaking-
Perfect.
Yeah, it's not like you can have like a
So-
mutual friend and just follow
No,
them.
no.
It's just
Countrymen?
strictly
No?
based on where you're going to sign.
Yeah, so
But we got a good laugh of it because I've talked about the Netflix documentary. Did you see the comeback of the Red Sox? It's great. But Kevin Millar, the A-Rod situation of how he handled that, I showed the clip to Rads earlier, and I was like, that's
classic.
how it was handled back in the 2000s before social media. And that was on live TV. But I did get a kick out of this. So you heard it here. Juan Soto to the Texas Rangers. Thank you,
There you
Leody.
go. Yeah.
Thank you,
We
Leody
are
Tavares.
breaking news.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we
I'm
are
looking
breaking
forward to
news.
it.
And that's someone who's way into the social media that's that out on.
Hey, I
Yeah.
just
This idea.
disclaimer. I did not do that research. It was presented to me on Twitter.
Well, of course. No, I mean, I get it. But I wouldn't even know where to look for it on Twitter, to be honest
No.
with you. So I'd have to ask you or Candace over there. What am I supposed to? How do I get this? But yeah. So Mac, we're going to try to solve and heal, as we've said, the offense, the Rangers offense. We've concluded over the course of the offseason what everybody knew. It was anemic. It was terrible. It didn't work. It never clicked. You kept expecting it. We talked about it earlier in the season. It's like, offense comes around. It never came around.
No.
So I know that, you as the doctor of defense, but still you have thoughts on offense and what was going right and what was going mostly wrong for several guys this season.
Yeah, I think what people don't understand is how delicate a lineup is.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, not the particular players that are in the lineup. Their mentality is fine. It's just if you take somebody out, what the damage does to that team, or it may make it better. You just don't know when you've got that mix. That's why managers will have, especially in the beginning, the first month or maybe even first couple of months of a season, you have managers that are changing their lineup because they're trying to get that right mix. And for the Rangers this past year, for me, the biggest problem was that there was no Mitch Garver. And people say, well, Mitch Garver, this guy didn't hit 300. And no, but Mitch Garver hit 25 homers. He was hurt for a little bit in 23, but he still managed to hit 25 homers. And what that does for a team, that makes you say, hey, there's another guy that we have to be careful with in that lineup. He made Adolis Garcia a better hitter, Seager a better hitter, Simeon a better hitter, Jonah Heim, everybody in front and behind. That has a huge effect. You look at Marcus Semien not having the type of year that he's accustomed to having. Well, that's a direct byproduct from the bottom of the order not getting in,
Right.
getting on base. In 23, you have a leadoff hitter that drives in 100 runs. The only way that happens is that 7, 8, and 9
are getting on base. Yeah.
So if you're having a guy that's having an off year, or off to a slow start, it's going to affect people behind him and people in front because the pitches are going to change. You've got Seager not in the lineup for the first month, 5 weeks, six weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best hitters in the game.
Yeah.
How do you survive that? And Josh Smith came in and did a fantastic job, but Josh Smith is not Corey Seager. There's only one Corey Seager, so when he's not in there, that changes the entire dynamic. So you can look at it, from a number of different ways. Adola's having an off year, even though he still put up some pretty decent numbers, home run wise and RBI wise. The average wasn't there, but he was still able, in my opinion, to have a fairly decent year. So when you're having some guys that, one or two guys that may be off to a slow start, it's going to affect everybody else. Mm-hmm. If Marcus Semien is swinging the bat well, they're probably not going to pitch to him. And since Seager's not in the lineup, whoever's in that two-hole, they're going to go after him and make that guy get it done. Josh Smith. They made Josh Smith get it done, and more times than not, he did. Mm-hmm. But again, he doesn't instill that fear that Corey Seager does. Very few guys in this game do. So when you look at all the different things that didn't go the Rangers' way and you add them all together, it's one of those years, unfortunately, where everything, in my opinion, just kind of went against them. Mm-hmm. You go back to 23, everything went their way.
Yeah.
Everything. And that doesn't happen very often. And typically the team that wins the World Series, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Everything went their way. They may have some down times throughout the course of a season, but everything tends to go their way. And unfortunately, last year, no Mitch Garver. You had Leote not getting on as consistently as he did the year before. Jonah Heim, the same thing. Seager out of the lineup for a little while.
Josh
Young, Josh Young, that was a big one. That's 4 games into the season. He's going to do some damage. And what every team does when you're starting a series or whatever game it is that you're playing, you're saying, hey, we're not going to let Seager beat us. We're not going to let Josh Young beat us. We'll make everybody else do it. Well, those are 2 guys. And if you've got 3 guys and they're all right there, Semien, Seager, Young, we're not going to let them beat us. That means everybody else has to pick up the slack. Well, if you have a couple of those guys that aren't, you're pitching around everybody else, the guys that can hurt you because they have that track record of doing that, it makes a huge difference. And that was unfortunately one of those things that happened to the Rangers this year. Hopefully, maybe it will turn around and some of those guys will bounce back. You got to figure Seager's going to come out and do his normal thing, which he always does.
Healthy Seager, yeah.
Semien, he'll be out there for 160 to 162. He'll get the job done once again. Nathaniel Lowe, another guy who was probably down a little bit from his numbers the year before in 23. If he bounces back, everybody's going to need to pitch in.
Yeah.
You can't rely on 2 or 3 guys to help you win or get you to the World Series and win it. Mm-hmm. It has to be everybody. And that was one of the things that the Rangers did extremely well in 23. The biggest thing that I said, and probably said the most, it was 1 through 13.
Yeah.
Because even the guys that came off the bench, they came in. Robbie Grossman did a fantastic job watching him go out there and do his thing. So it has to be everybody. Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, this weekend. So you're saying the Rangers are missing the Garb sauce?
And I'm a little biased. I like Garver. He's just that guy that's in the middle of the lineup that, he's got a track record of hitting 25, 30 home runs. So if you mess around and make a mistake, it's going to cost you.
You're going to find out.
Yeah.
So Natalie has asked this question a lot. She's, talked about the DH position, and Will Garcia do a lot of that more this year. We talked about the DH spot, and 16 different batters were the starting designated hitter in 24. And Langford was actually at the top of the list with 25, and then Garcia 23. And Jank 19. What's your thought process there with how the Rangers should fill that role in 2025?
It's tough for a young player to be a DH every day because they're number one. They're used to playing every day, coming up through the minor leagues or, in his case, college and just a short time in the minor leagues. He's used to playing every single day. And when you're a DH, you have to learn how to be a DH. You have to figure out what your routine is in between at bats because you're not out there on defense. You have to, make sure that you keep your mentality right and on point and be in the game, even though you're not on the field, all you're doing is hitting, you still have to treat it as though you're playing defense. And for a young player, that can be tough to do. I thought Wyatt Langford did a really good job this year, when he was in the DH spot. Well, just a really good job all around for a rookie. But it's tough being a rookie or being a young player in the DH spot. I like it for a veteran player.
Yeah, but in the case of Garcia, who is more veteran, he loves playing defense.
Yeah, I would not. I would do that to give him some rest. If he's been out there or on turf, you've got a long road trip, I'd give him maybe a day or two every now and then in that DH spot. But for every day, you cannot put him in that DH. Well, you're giving up defense too.
Yeah.
Because we've seen his defense. He's got Gold Glove caliber defense in right field. So, yes, he's going to DH some, but that would be just to give him a rest. My guess, hey, go get Mitch Garver.
Go get him back.
That's my call. That's my call.
Solution.
Easy.
I mean, if
Easy.
not for Garver, if not for Corey Seager in 23, Mitch Garver had probably the best second half of the other Rangers. He was fantastic. 900 OPS, earned him a lot of money, had a terrible year in Seattle this year. But anyway,
But he got the contract.
and the DH spot, the Rangers just aren't going to have a full-time DH. They like the 16 was by design. They like it to give guys days off. So I don't think there will be a full-time DH.
Yeah. All right. We got more to talk about. We'll continue this topic. We'll continue with more of your questions, and we'll walk down memory lane with Mac next on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. But first, when you get your merch, this is how it comes to you, right? In a beautiful hermetically sealed pack. This is for Mac.
Signed,
Boom,
sealed,
look at that.
delivered.
Boom.
It's yours.
That is yours.
Still
And
got
so
hands.
if you could be a guest on the show like Mac is, you could get one of those like we just tossed it to him. But it's easy for you to get one too. Almost as easy. All you got to do is go to store.allcitynetwork.com and buy one. The shirts are cheap. They're such high quality. They're great. People
Don't say
wonder.
cheap, say affordable.
Oh, affordable?
Yeah, that'd be
Affordable is a more
affordable.
attractive word.
Oh, yeah, they're affordable. They're cheap. I like cheap. Anyway, I shop at Walmart. Anyway, people say to me, "What is that?" Because this, I think it's cool. There's
Combo
not any.
starter.
Yeah, there's not any letters or anything, and I go, "That's for me to know and you to find out." No, I tell them what it is. It's from DLLS. It's from the DLLS Rangers Podcast. We love this merch. We want you to get it. store.allcitynetwork.com.
It's also sweatshirt weather now.
Yes.
Based on today. So we got hoodies.
Yeah, we got hoodies. We got hoodies.
And while you're at it, become a diehard for just small price, $79.99. You can be our best friends. And if you really do the math, shirts, what, 30-something?
35.
Yeah, so it's like $40 a year to hang out and get the best content. Jeff's always writing the exclusive stuff. We say that if you read our stuff, you will not be shocked by any quote-unquote breaking news because we're kind of soft launching it here. So join today, become a diehard, $79.99. You get 20% off of merchandise. You get a free shirt every single year. You get to be in the Discord lounge. You get 20% off of events that we're hoping to kind of get going. Spring training being a huge one for us, just around the corner. And with winter meetings, I think we're going to have some pretty top secret stuff. So sign up and you will be a part of that.
Yep.
News these days breaks on Twitter.
Yeah.
Correct.
First of all, so follow us all on Twitter. That also helps.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
That's where all the scoops happen. It lasts 30 seconds. Nobody remembers who has it unless you're competing against the other person. But yeah, so Twitter, and then we go deeper as on the website where you can be diehards and get all the stuff.
And I realize that this is the pot calling the kettle black again, but Jeff's so old he still calls it Twitter.
I'm never going to call it the other one.
You're not.
No.
My
You're not going to do it.
grandfather.
I never call it the other one either. Actually,
My
I never
grandfather
have.
calls it X.
Your grandfather.
Oh, awesome.
He's in the know.
My papa could be a team PR person. He will text me and say, "Did you see so-and-so got sent down?" And I'm
Wow.
like, "Actually, you know what, Pop? Nope, haven't seen that yet."
Breaking news from
Thanks
Pop.
for the heads up.
Breaking
Yeah.
news from Papa. So
That's awesome.
Hey,
That's
Pop,
awesome.
I know he's
All
watching.
right, so we've got Mac in here, so we want to walk down memory lane. And here's one of the things, like this is a subtle thing from earlier in the show when Mac said, talking about Rizzo, and he said he's a real baseball guy. And I know what that means. You know, you like a guy who was there and did that, and there is a credibility to that. And there's room, clearly, and I know you believe this, there's room, for the guys who have never played but who have big brains. But it needs to be kind of a mix, right, for both in an organization.
Yeah, I like the mix because I'll put it to you this way. Someone told me this a long time ago. An old veteran guy told me this a long time ago. If I watch a brain surgeon operate for 30 years, are you going to let me perform brain surgery on
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
You want the guy who's done it,
a really good
not
point.
somebody that's just watched it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that, people that haven't been in that big league batter's box or on a big league mound come up with are theories. A guy that's been there and done it, it's not a theory. He's tried it. It's either worked or it hasn't worked, one of the other. So not to say that if you haven't been there, you don't know, because there are a lot of great coaches, managers, general managers that didn't play at the big league level, but they're still great at it. Joe Madden's one. Joe never made it past AA baseball, but a great big league manager, a great communicator. So it's not, that I don't believe it can happen. I just tend to like someone or believe someone that's been there and done it before anything else. With CY and all the moves that he makes with pitchers. I know a lot of people were saying, well, hey, this guy, had an injury last year and he's coming off of an injury. Well, I know one thing. When CY talked to each one of those guys, and whenever he talks to any of them, they can't lie to him.
Yeah.
Because he knows, he's been there, he's done it.
Yeah.
So that for me is just brings a lot more weight to it if a guy has done it as opposed to not. So it can happen, either way, but for me personally, I am going to go typically with the guy that's been there and done it. What's on the back of his bubblegum card? That's the other question you need to ask. If the guy's giving you, some kind of advice on how to do something, Reggie Jackson told me this my rookie year. Look at the back of his bubblegum card. He said, that hitting coach right there that you're listening to, he had five big league bats. 4 of them were strikeouts. The only thing he can tell you about hitting in the big leagues was he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that stuck with me.
Sure.
When a Hall of Famer like that tells you something like that,
Yeah.
tends to stick with you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That kind of, presents the question to me about analytics playing such a big part of the game. And they're huge. But you've still got to pass the eye test, And just because it's on numbers doesn't mean it's penciled down every single time. I mean, what do you think in the future of what is the fine line of, hey, I read this on a sheet of paper and, it's telling me 10 times out of 10 or whatever. And it's like, nope, I've been in the situation. I know the moment. I'm going with the feel.
Well, first, I'm going to blow the lid off of this whole thing.
Okay.
All right? Here it is. We've always had analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've always had charts. We've always had numbers. We've always had tendencies. We've always had that. It was there before I got to the big leagues. The difference between then and now, it's all on TV.
Yeah,
It's all right there in front
They got
of
a
you.
name for it.
Yes,
They've
and
named it all.
Exactly. They've given it a name and they've
Yeah.
added some different things and changed some of the terminology. So it's always been there. There is a hitting chart, a pitching chart on every player that plays in the big leagues. Always has been. We just used to have the books instead of iPads in the dugout. You had the pitcher's book, you had the hitter's book.
Yep.
Somebody came out, if you didn't remember from the one meeting you had, not the meetings that you have every day, the one meeting that you have the day that you're going to play a team, if you don't remember, go to the book. Or you ask your hitting coach or your pitching coach or one of your teammates, hey, what does this guy like to do? In this situation when he falls behind or when he's ahead, what does he like to do? You know it, So we didn't attach, 67% of the time he throws a slider when he's behind in the count. It was just pretty much, hey, when he's behind, he likes to use a slider.
Yeah.
That's it. It wasn't 67.938881% he throws it. So, it was all there. They've just changed some of the terminology and added some new things and tried to get rid of some other ones. But like you said, the eye test. What am I seeing today? This guy normally throws 97, 98. Okay, well, his arm's a little sore. It was a little cold on the flight. His right shoulder was getting a lot of air, and believe me, that
Sure.
comes
Plays
into
into
play.
it.
Might sleep
Sure.
on
By
that
the
shoulder.
window, yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you're older, 35 and older, that's when the game got a lot tougher for me. So when you're on that long flight and you've got to get off and play, every bone in my body was aching.
Yeah.
So a lot of things come into play that you can't just say, hey, this is what he
Yeah,
does.
pencil him down for that.
Yeah, you just have to say, okay, this is generally what happens, how he approaches it. So that eye test will always be the number one thing for me.
And they're probabilities. Analytics, in a lot of cases, are probabilities. You know, it's like there's a 60% chance he's going to hit it to the left side of the infield. Well, if the pitcher doesn't execute his pitch,
Bingo.
Yeah.
you know,
and
then
that's
your
out the window.
probability is
Gone.
yeah. So it's yeah.
But it's
you got to have the eye
interesting.
test.
It's interesting though because it is so available, and like a game on Apple TV now, you know, it'll say like batting average or what they did the last at bat, or you know, stats for the season. It just says a probability of something now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is probability
Well, and
of striking
not-
out this at bat, and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, and not even probability on just the Apple games. During the playoffs this year, and I was up in Michigan there when the Tigers beat the Astros, and there would be, that second game especially was close, and my family was going crazy
The win
about
probability?
win probability. Oh, yeah, I'll be darned. Now it's 90%
well,
because they
okay.
took the lead in the ninth inning.
That was fun though. The Braves Mets doubleheader though, because that was back
Well,
and
that-
forth.
yeah,
that
went
was
back
the last
that
day of
was
the
the
series.
only time I
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
Win probability.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
be
a
damned.
lot.
When you have the lead, you're more probably going to win that game. That's just me kind of thinking in an advanced way, Mac. You know.
I understand that.
I'll get
that
deep
really
on
works.
you. Yeah. I'll get
All right.
deep.
2001 Mariners, best
He's been
regular
waiting for
season
it.
team in baseball history. You losing the ALCS to the Yankees. Sorry. I think the division series really had an impact on you guys because that one went 5 games, and you had to use your 2 best pitchers in games 4 and 5. I really think that kind of put you guys behind the 8 ball.
I think for me, what really put us behind the 8 ball is we didn't hit as a team the way that we had always hit. All season long, we hit well. Everybody did. And it didn't matter who was pitching for us. Honestly, our 1 through 5, everybody had 15 wins. At least 15. 1 through 5. I don't think we had a starter that missed a start. So the health was there. And like I said, it didn't matter. But we hit in order to win 116 games. We had to hit. We had to do everything. We had to do it well pretty much every day, and we did. What I like to remind people of is, and this is by no means an excuse, the Yankees had a few Hall of Famers on that team.
Yeah. They did.
We had one, and that's Edgar Martinez.
Yeah.
So
Ichiro's about to be.
Ichiro, yeah. So they had a few. So those guys were really good, and they always found a way to turn things on and be ready to go by the postseason. First half, typically, they were okay, but we knew they were going to be there every year. Let's put it this way: I did. I've been in the postseason 5 times and lost 5 times.
Every time to the Yankees.
5 times to the Yankees.
Oh.
Yes. You know the story, absolutely. So I've watched them firsthand do this
what they
every
do.
single time, and not just to me, but other teams as well, winning championships. They were a very good team, especially in those mid to late 90s. They could just put it together and get it done. You know, for me, actually, I had an opportunity to join them twice from here.
Really?
Yes, before I came here, and then my first time being a free agent, I re-signed here. They were after me both of those times, actually a few times. And so Willie Randolph, one of my idols,
Yeah.
Yankees great second baseman, and he was their longtime third base coach. To this day, he is all over me every time we see each other or talk. Mac, you're scared of New York. You're scared of New York. You wouldn't come here. How come? I was like, man. And so, yes, those teams, they could just put it together when they needed to. We had some opportunities to win, for sure.
Yeah.
We had some opportunities to win. We won the first game in New York. We should have won the second game. We had the lead going into the 7th inning. Dave Justice is responsible for that. He hit a nice bomb out to left center field in the 7th inning, kind of shut the door for us winning that. So we actually came back to Seattle 1-1. We should have been up 2-0, but hey.
There's a great story about how the Mariners that year could have actually broken the record for most wins in Major League Baseball. That story is great. We ask you to like us, subscribe to us, hang out with us. We're here every day. Now to that story. That's what Mac. That's what we call a soft close, right there.
Soft
see that.
close.
Yeah, we close and now we go. Look at there's Kat. Kat's over there. Yeah, Kat. She taught me. Kat, thank you. That's the Queen. That's the
see.
Queen Katia over there. You remember?
I do.
Katia was at Bally with
she
us.
was.
Yeah. Anyway, so at Bally, we did a thing where we said, okay, what was with all our former players. Tell us your memories of your major league debut. So Mike Bassick gets up there and tells the memory of his major league debut. Well, I made my debut for the Cleveland Indians,
that's right.
They had they were up 6-0 or something. That we were playing the Mariners that day. Mariners were up like 6-0. I came in and when I got out of the game, they were up 15-0.
Pretty close.
Yeah, something like this, right? And then Mac tells the rest of the story.
Yes, we ended up losing that game. I think we had a 7, 8, 9-run lead going into the 6th, and those Indians, they had some really good hitters. You had Albert Bell, you had Carlos Baerga, you had Jim Thome at first base, Sandy Alomar, Kenny Lofton, Sandy Alomar Jr. behind the plate. They had some great players, and we never counted them out. We didn't count anybody out that whole season, even though we won as many games as we did. But that was probably the biggest comeback. I know it's the biggest comeback that I've ever been involved in.
I think it's the biggest in baseball history.
Yeah,
was it really?
It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so Bassick loves to tell that story.
He loves that.
He loves to tell that story, and I'm like, that's great, that's fine, okay, you can have it. But we also won a lot of games like that in the last inning, the last at bat, the last strike. So the 116, okay, 117 would have been great, but really the big thing is we didn't win it all. Mm-hmm. That was the bad thing.
Arthur Rhodes had a huge year that year out of the bullpen. I remember when he signed with the Rangers in 11. I think he was like 8-0 or 9-1 or something like that.
Yes,
I love Arthur Rhodes.
Yeah, I do too. One of my best teammates. We played together for 8 years. So 3 in Baltimore. Where else? Oakland. We ended up playing in Oakland together as well. So we spent a lot of time together. This guy at 40, 41 years old, he's still throwing 95.
Oh
yeah.
Big strong man.
Just absolutely bring it.
He
was just
absolutely bring
kind of mean, intimidating.
We had. I'll tell you what. We had a nice almost brawl against Cleveland because of Arthur Rhodes. It was Omar Vizquel was up, and Arthur used to wear studs in his ears. So he's on the mound, and it's a day game. And Vizquel was told the umpire, hey, he's got to take his earrings out because it's messing with, I can't really see, it's messing with my vision. Which it wasn't. It was just a mind game.
Yeah.
It worked because Arthur blew a gasket.
That's hilarious.
He blew a gasket. I was like, oh my God. And he ended up getting thrown out of the game. He really wanted to hit Vizquel. He really wanted to.
You mean like hit or hit him with a pitch?
Both.
Okay.
Hit him with a pitch first and then go get him. But Lou ended up taking Arthur out because he blew a gasket, and it worked because they ended up winning that game too.
That's hilarious.
Great guy though. Like I saw him out after a couple of games when he was with the Rangers, and he didn't have the greatest part with the Rangers, but then he ended up with the Cardinals and won the World Series over the Rangers.
Yeah, great pitcher.
But anyway, he was just a great guy. I loved him.
He is. Yeah. We still talk to this day. He lives in Waco.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's in Waco.
Is that where he's from there, isn't he?
Uh-huh.
I forgot about that.
All right, a 19-year playing career in Major League Baseball, and now almost 20 years on the broadcasting side of things.
Yeah, two careers.
Yeah. What do you like about this side?
I don't have to travel. That's the number one thing.
Yep.
Traveling in the big leagues, obviously it's better than traveling commercial. We have charter flights.
Yeah, but it's a
food
grind.
is catered. Yeah, it is a grind, and people don't realize that part of it. They just see the glitz and the glamour part. Mm-hmm. It's a grind, especially when you get older. That was a lot of fun, but for me, I really wanted to still be involved in the game. And initially, my first couple of years, it was, in broadcasting, was just to see, how deep I wanted to get in. If I wanted to go into coaching to manage, I wasn't going to just be a long-time coach. If I was going to go that route, my goal was to manage. And so I just really wanted to see how much of that I really had left in me. But my kids were young. I think they were 11, 10, and 9 when I retired.
And you've already missed out a lot on them growing up.
Yes, and that was tough for me. Yep. And so my thing was, okay, I don't want to travel. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity came up with ESPN first. And then after 05, John Blake with the Rangers called, and asked me if I'd be interested in doing pre and post. I was like, hey, do I have to travel? How many do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And, we just went from there. And once I realized, okay, I really like being at home, which I knew I would. I've always been a homebody. That was it.
Yeah.
My passion for the game, coaching, managing, trying to win a World Series as a manager, that would have been great. But my number one overall riding decision, it was really just being at home with my kids and my family. That was what I wanted to do, and still have my foot in baseball.
Yeah.
Without the travel.
Right.
The travel. No, it was time for me to stop doing it.
Yeah, those West Coast trips, those Seattle
They'll get
to
ya.
Yes.
New
Yeah.
York and
Yes.
Anaheim to New
Yeah.
York
Yeah.
or Tampa.
And then my last year, I was with Oakland.
Yeah.
So same
Yeah,
thing,
right.
West Coast. Going wherever we went, it was going east.
Can you put some perspective into, that first year being retired and how difficult that transition is, that you've done this your entire life and now you're a dad full time and, waking up with the kids and schools and all of the things that entails? Like, you jump from one extreme to the other.
Piece of cake. Piece
Really?
of cake, transitioning from playing to broadcasting in my mind.
Okay.
Not my wife's and everybody else's mind. Completely different story.
Yeah.
For me, the first couple of years, number one, I had to get used to, when I go to a ballpark, going upstairs
Yep.
instead of downstairs. And I don't know, people say, well, why is that so different?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I'd never been upstairs
Yeah.
before, ever. I'd never been in the stands before, ever. So that was just a different feel for me. And then obviously, even though I was 40 years old, still thinking, man, I could have made that play.
Yeah.
I could do that better than him. What is he doing? I would have. I had to get that out of me. And that took a couple of years. So my first couple of years, in my mind, I thought I handled things very well. My wife can tell you, I did not. I did not. There were times I would come home and I still have the game in me.
Yeah.
No.
And I'd be, oh man, they should have done this, they should have done that. Why didn't they do that? Whatever it was. And then she finally said, hey, listen, you don't play anymore. I've been through this long enough. Leave it there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. So a few years after that, she kind of really let me know, okay, those first couple of years, because she heard me tell somebody that asked me that same question, oh yeah, I was fine, I was great. She's like,
And she turned her head.
Yes.
She was like,
wait
hold
a minute.
on.
I'm tired of you saying that. Here's how it really was. And I was like,
hilarious.
oh my God. So it was a tougher transition than I thought.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, it's just hard because that's all I've ever done in my entire life. From the time I was 5 years old, following my brothers around, wanting to do everything that they did, whether football, baseball, basketball, but it was always baseball. At the end of the day, growing up in San Diego, year-round weather is great. So at the end of the day, I was going to play baseball somewhere. So from doing that from 5 to 40,
It's a long time.
Yeah, tough
It's tough.
transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a fun transition for me to have you in broadcasting for all this time. We want to do this again with you, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind, Mac. Absolutely. Good. We'll have Mac on the show again. We appreciate him coming by. We appreciate you guys very much. I know there were lots of questions and there was a lot going on in that chat that we didn't get to, but that's why we'll have Mac back again, and we'll ask him more and more of those questions, and we appreciate you being here. It's going to be a fun week. Tomorrow we'll be here sampling food from over there. We're having a Friendsgiving here, so that should be a lot of fun.
You picked the wrong day, Mac. You should have
we're going to be
tomorrow.
Yeah, we should have
Get
Mac
you fed.
tomorrow. You could
Let's
sample
see, I'm
the
free. I won't be flying drones. I might stop by for a little snack.
Little mac and cheese.
All right. So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow at noon, and we'll be chowing down on turkey. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate Mac. And that's going to do it for this edition of the DLLS Rangers Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.